The rain hammered against the diner windows like fists demanding entry. Inside, under the harsh fluorescent lights, Maya Jenkins counted her last $20 bill for the third time, as if the number might change through sheer desperation. Didn't. Get him out of here. The night manager's voice cut through the diner's exhausted silence. I'm calling the cops if he doesn't leave in 2 minutes. Maya looked up from her cold coffee. At the corner booth, a man slumped against the cracked vinyl seat, his expensive suit soaked through and stinking of whiskey. His face was buried in his hands, and even from across the room, she could see his shoulders shaking. The other patrons, a trucker, 2 college kids, an elderly couple, all looked away. The universal language of "not my problem." Sir, you need to go. The manager stood over the drunk man, arms crossed. You can't sleep here. The man mumbled something incomprehensible. His hand knocked over an empty glass, sending it rolling across the table. Nobody moved to catch it. Nobody except Maya, who watched it fall to the floor and shatter, the sound impossibly loud in the tense quiet. She thought about Zoe, her 7-year-old daughter, sleeping at Mrs. Chen's apartment 2 floors down from their own. She thought about the eviction notice folded in her purse, the one that said she had until tomorrow to come up with $800 or lose the only home Zoe had ever known. She thought about the double shift she'd just finished, and the one waiting for her in 6 hours. She thought about all the times she'd been the one people looked away from. Fine, I'm calling them. The manager reached for his phone. Maya stood up. Her legs protested after 14 hours on her feet, but she walked to the counter anyway, the $20 bill tight in her fist. Wait, she said. I'll take care of it. The manager turned, surprise flickering across his tired face. The drunk man didn't move. Ma'am, you don't have to. I said I'll take care of it. Maya's voice was steady, even though her hands weren't. Can you make him a burger? And coffee. Strong coffee. And water. The manager looked at her like she'd just offered to fly to the moon. That's $15. Maya placed the 20 on the counter. The last $20 between her and complete disaster. Keep the change. She didn't wait for his response. She walked to the drunk man's booth and slid into the seat across from him. Up close, she could see the details the darkness had hidden. The blood on his knuckles, the cut above his eyebrow, the way his breathing came in ragged gasps like he'd been running or fighting or both. Hey, she said softly. Food's coming. He lifted his head slowly, and for a moment, their eyes met. His were dark, almost black, and filled with something that made Maya's chest tighten. Not anger, not fear, something worse, emptiness. He stared at her like he was trying to remember how to speak, how to be human. Then his eyes dropped to the table, and he said in barely accented English, You should not waste your money on me. Maybe, Maya said, but I did, so you might as well eat. The food arrived. A greasy burger, fries, coffee so strong it could wake the dead, and a tall glass of water. The man looked at it like he'd forgotten food existed. Eat, Maya said, softer now. Please. He picked up the burger with shaking hands, took a bite, then another. The physical act of eating seemed to pull him back from wherever he'd been. He drank the water in 3 long gulps, then started on the coffee. Maya watched in silence. She didn't ask questions, didn't demand gratitude. She'd been broken before, knew that sometimes the worst thing you could do to someone drowning was make them explain why they couldn't swim. 20 minutes passed. The burger disappeared. The fries followed. The man's hands stopped shaking. His breathing evened out. But the emptiness in his eyes remained. Why? He finally asked, his voice clearer now. You do not know me. Maya shrugged, exhaustion settling into her bones. Does it matter? Yes. He looked at her directly, really looked at her, and Maya felt the weight of that gaze. Everything matters. Then maybe I did it because someone should have done it for me once, and they didn't. She stood up, her shift at the hospital starting in 5 hours. Take care of yourself. She walked out into the rain without looking back, the $5 in change heavy in her pocket. Pointless now, meaningless, but somehow, Feeding that broken stranger had felt more important than saving herself. She didn't know that the man she'd left in that diner had already decided tonight would be his last. She didn't know that her kindness had just changed the trajectory of her entire life. She didn't know that in 3 days, her world would shift in ways she couldn't imagine. She just knew she had to get home to Zoe. Jean Tae-suk sat in the empty diner long after the woman left, the taste of cheap American coffee burning his tongue. He was aware of the manager watching him nervously, of the college kids whispering, of the trucker who kept glancing his way like he was deciding whether to intervene. None of it mattered. For the first time in 3 days, his mind was clear. 3 days since Park Min-ho, his sworn brother, his most trusted lieutenant, had tried to kill him. 3 days since Jean had discovered that half his organization had turned, that the empire he'd built over 15 years was rotting from the inside. 3 days since he'd decided that the easiest solution was to disappear permanently, to let the chaos consume itself while he faded into nothing. He'd been minutes away from making that decision final when that woman, small, exhausted, clearly struggling, had spent her last money on a stranger who didn't deserve it. Why? Jean had spent his entire adult life in a world where every action had a motive. Every kindness came with strings attached. Every gesture of humanity was a negotiation. But there had been no negotiation in her eyes. No calculation. Just a quiet choice to be decent when the world gave her every reason not to be. He pulled out his phone, water-damaged but functional, and dialed a number he'd thought he'd never use again. "Boss!" The voice that answered was sharp with disbelief. "We've been looking everywhere." "Kong!" Jean interrupted. "I need information on someone." A pause. Then, carefully, "What kind of information?" "Everything. Start with the diner security footage. The woman who just left. I want to know who she is, where she lives, what she needs." "Sir, are you coming back?" Jean looked at the empty plate, the cold coffee, the $5 bills left on the table as change. The woman hadn't even taken all her money back. "Yes," he said, but quietly. "And Kong?" "Yes, sir." No one approaches her. No one speaks to her. No one so much as looks at her wrong. "Understood. Understood, boss." Jean ended the call and stood, his legs steadier now. The manager flinched. "Thank you for the food," Jean said, placing a $100 bill on the counter. "And for your patience." He walked out into the rain. The same rain that woman had disappeared into, and for the first time in 3 days, he felt something other than emptiness. He felt purpose. Maya made it home at 3 in the morning, every muscle in her body screaming. The apartment building's elevator was broken again, so she climbed 4 flights of stairs, picked up Zoe from Mrs. Chen's with whispered thanks and promises to pay the babysitting debt soon, and carried her sleeping daughter home. Their apartment was small, a 1-bedroom that Maya had converted by hanging a curtain to give Zoe privacy. The paint was peeling, the heater rattled, and the neighbors upstairs fought every night, but it was theirs. For one more day at least. Maya tucked Zoe into bed, kissed her forehead, and allowed herself exactly 2 minutes to cry in the bathroom with the water running, so her daughter wouldn't hear. Then she washed her face, changed out of her diner uniform into her hospital scrubs, and lay down on the couch for whatever sleep she could steal before her next shift. She fell asleep thinking about the drunk man's eyes, and the way he'd looked at her like she'd done something impossible. She woke up 3 hours later to Zoe shaking her shoulder. "Mama, you have to get ready for work." 7 years old and already too responsible. Maya's heart cracked a little more. "Morning, baby." She forced a smile, forced her body upright. "Did you sleep okay at Mrs. Chen's?" "Yeah, but she snores funny." Zoe giggled, and for a moment, everything was okay. "Can we have pancakes?" Maya thought about the $5 in her purse, the empty fridge, the eviction notice. "How about cereal?" Again. Zoe's face fell, but she didn't complain. She never complained. That was worse somehow. Maya poured the last of the cereal into a bowl, added the last of the milk, and watched her daughter eat breakfast while she got ready for work. 16 hours at the hospital today. Then maybe she could figure out a miracle. Her phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor. Can you cover the night shift too? Extra pay. Maya closed her eyes. That would be 24 hours straight. But it would also be enough to at least negotiate with the landlord. She texted back, Yes. Mama. Zoe was watching her with those two old eyes. Are we okay? Maya knelt down, pulled her daughter close. We're always okay, baby. Because we have each other. It was the same lie she told every day. Zoe was starting to see through it. 3 days later, Maya was walking home from her shift when she noticed the first change. The eviction notice she'd been dreading, the official one, the one backed by legal action, never came. Instead, when she checked her mailbox, there was a letter from the landlord's office marked, Error. Account credited. Maya read it 3 times. According to the letter, a clerical error had been discovered. She'd apparently overpaid her rent for the last 6 months, and the credits had been applied to her current balance. She was not only current but had a small surplus. That was impossible. She'd been late every month. She'd never overpaid anything in her life. She took the letter to the building manager, a perpetually annoyed man named Rick who'd processed her eviction notice with visible pleasure. Is this real? She asked, holding out the letter. Rick barely glanced at it. If it says it's real, it's real. Congratulations, I guess. But I haven't. Look, lady, I don't question good news, and neither should you. You're paid up. Be happy. He turned back to his computer, dismissing her. Maya walked home in a daze. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. The next day, her supervisor at the hospital called her into the office. Maya's stomach dropped. She was going to be fired. She'd made some mistake, forgotten some protocol, and now, Maya, sit down. Dr. Patterson smiled, which was somehow more terrifying than if she'd been angry. I have some interesting news. Maya sat, hands clenched in her lap. You've been awarded a staff scholarship, Dr. Patterson said. Full ride for nursing school, plus a stipend for books and materials. The application committee was unanimous. Maya stared at her. I didn't apply for any scholarship. Your supervisor submitted your name. Apparently, the foundation that funds it was very impressed with your work ethic and patient care scores. This is a big deal, Maya. Could change your entire career trajectory. Could change her life. Could give Zoe a stable future. Could mean they'd never have to count their last $20 again. I don't understand, Maya whispered. Dr. Patterson's smile widened. Sometimes good things happen to good people. Accept it. Maya walked out of that office feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. That night, Zoe came home from school with a story about how the boys who'd been bullying her suddenly apologized and gave her their desserts at lunch. The next morning, Maya's ancient car, which had been on death's door for months, started on the first try and ran smoother than it had in years. The mechanic she took it to looked baffled, said someone had done extensive work on it but there was no record of service or payment. By the end of the week, Maya was certain of one thing. She wasn't lucky. Something was happening. Someone was helping her, and she had no idea why. Jean watched through the window of the black sedan as Maya Jenkins walked out of the hospital, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. She'd just finished a double shift. Before that, she'd picked up her daughter from school, helped her with homework in the hospital cafeteria, and ensured the girl ate a proper meal even though Maya herself only had coffee. She hasn't noticed the tail? Jean asked Kong, his head of security, who sat in the driver's seat. No, sir. We're being careful. As instructed. Kong paused. Sir, with respect, the men are asking questions. They don't understand why we're protecting a civilian. They don't need to understand. Sir. Kong. Jin's voice went cold. Do they question my orders? No, sir. Kong straightened. Never, sir. Good. Because if anything happens to that woman or her daughter, if anyone so much as looks at them wrong, I will hold every single man in this organization personally responsible. Am I clear? Crystal, sir. Jean watched as Maya got into her car, the one his mechanics had worked on 2 nights ago while she slept, and drove away toward her apartment. She was singing along to the radio. He could see her mouth moving, see the slight smile on her face. For just a moment, she looked lighter. He'd spent the last 3 days rebuilding his intelligence network, identifying who'd betrayed him and why. Park Min-ho had been thorough, convincing nearly 40% of Jin's organization that he was weak, that his time was over. They'd been planning a complete takeover. Now they were planning funerals. Jin had handled it quietly, efficiently, the way he handled everything. No public displays. No dramatic confrontations. Just systematic removal of threats. By tomorrow, his empire would be secure again. But none of that felt as important as ensuring Maya Jenkins never had to count her last $20 again. "Sir," Kong said carefully, "Park Min-ho's lieutenants are asking for a meeting. They want to negotiate." No negotiation. They made their choice. And Park himself? Jin's jaw tightened. Park, his sworn brother. The man who'd stood beside him for 12 years. The man who'd decided that loyalty was worth less than ambition. "Find him," Jin said. "But don't touch him yet. I'll handle Park personally." "Yes, sir." Kong pulled out his phone, started making calls in rapid Korean. Jin leaned back in his seat, watching the city lights blur past. He'd built this empire from nothing, carved out territory in a foreign country through intelligence and ruthlessness. He'd made hard choices, sacrificed pieces of his humanity for power and survival. But that woman in the diner had looked at him like he was worth saving, like he was human. He couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at him that way. His phone rang. Unknown number. Jin answered it cautiously. "Yes." Jin Tae-suk. The voice was familiar, speaking in Korean. "I hear you're back from the dead. Park Min-ho." Jin's hand tightened on the phone. "Min-ho, I was wondering when you'd call. I thought you'd disappeared. Thought you'd finally realized you don't belong in this world anymore." Park's voice was casual, but Jin could hear the tension underneath. "You've gone soft, brother. Everyone knows it. Is that what you told them? When you convinced them to turn against me?" "I told them the truth, that you're not the man you used to be, that you care more about honor and rules than profit and power. In our world, that's a death sentence." Jin closed his eyes. "We were brothers." "We were," Park agreed. "And then you forgot what that meant. When was the last time you got your hands dirty, Jin? When was the last time you made the hard choice?" "I made one 3 days ago when I didn't blow your head off the moment I found out about your betrayal." Park laughed, but there was no humor in it. "See? Soft. The old Jin would have already ended this. But here you are, talking, hesitating, proving my point. Where are you, Min-ho? Somewhere you'll never find me. But don't worry, brother. I'll find you. And when I do, I'll finish what I started." The line went dead. Jin sat in silence for a long moment. Then he turned to Kong. "Double her protection. And put surveillance on Park's family, his associates, anyone he might use as leverage. You think he'll come after her? He doesn't even know about her." "He will," Jin said quietly. "He knows me. He knows I don't protect civilians unless they matter. He'll look for weaknesses, and eventually, he'll find her. Then maybe we should distance ourselves." "Sir, with respect, one act of kindness doesn't obligate you to." "It obligates me to everything," Jin snapped. "She saved my life, Kong. In that diner, I was minutes away from ending it. She stopped me. She didn't know it, but she stopped me. That debt can't be repaid with money or security. I owe her a future. I owe her safety. I owe her everything." Kong was quiet for a long time. Then, "Yes, sir. I'll double the protection." 2 weeks after the strange good fortune began, Maya was walking through the hospital parking lot when a car pulled up beside her. A sleek black sedan with tinted windows. The back door opened. "Ms. Jenkins." The voice came from inside the car, male, professional, speaking perfect English with a slight accent. "Please get in. Someone wants to speak with you." Maya's hand went to her phone. "I don't think so. It's about the assistance you've been receiving. The rent, the scholarship, your daughter's security. I think you deserve answers." Maya's blood went cold. She'd been trying not to think too hard about the coincidences, trying to just accept the good fortune and move on. But she'd known, deep down, that it couldn't last. that someone would want something in return. And if I refuse? Then the assistant stops. But nothing bad happens to you. You have my word. The man leaned forward slightly, and Maya could see his face now. Middle-aged, Korean, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Please, Ms. Jenkins. 5 minutes of your time. Against every instinct screaming at her to run, Maya got in the car. The interior was leather and luxury, the kind of wealth Maya had only seen in movies. The man who'd spoken sat across from her, and beside him, Maya's breath caught. It was him, the drunk man from the diner. Except he wasn't drunk now. He was clean, composed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. His face was healed, the cut above his eyebrow faded to a thin scar. He looked at her with those same dark eyes, but the emptiness was gone. "Hello," he said quietly. "I believe I owe you my life." Maya's hand went to the door handle. "Let me out. Ms. Jenkins. Let me out of this car right now." The older man looked at Jean, who nodded. The car stopped. Maya pushed the door open, stepped out into the parking lot, her heart hammering. Jean got out after her, stood at a respectful distance, hands visible, non-threatening. "Please, just 5 minutes. Then you never have to see me again if you don't want to." "I don't want your money," Maya said, her voice shaking. "I don't want whatever this is. I just helped someone who needed help. That's it. That's all." "I know." Jin's voice was impossibly gentle. "But I needed to thank you. And to explain." "Explain what? That you're some kind of, what, rich businessman who throws money at problems?" "Something like that." Maya laughed, a bitter sound. "I don't want to be anyone's charity case. I don't want to be anyone's project. So take your money, take your help, and leave me alone." She started to walk away. Jean called after her. "You saved my life." Maya stopped, didn't turn around. "That night in the diner," Jean continued, "I had decided to end my life. I had nothing left. No reason to continue. And then you spent your last $20 on a stranger. Not because you expected anything in return. Not because you thought I deserved it. But because you decided someone should be kind in a world that so rarely is." Maya turned slowly. Jin's face was open, honest in a way that made her chest ache. "I can't repay that debt," he said. "Nothing I do will ever be enough. But I can ensure you never have to count your last $20 again. I can give your daughter the security you never had. I can make sure the world is a little bit kinder to you, the way you were kind to me." "Why?" Maya whispered. "Because you taught me that even in the darkest moment, someone can choose light. You reminded me what it means to be human." Jean took a step forward. "I'm not a good man, Ms. Jenkins. The things I've done, the life I've lived. I'm not someone you should know. But I want to be better. Because of you." Maya felt tears burning her eyes. "I can't be someone's redemption project. I'm not asking you to be. I'm just asking." Jin's voice broke slightly. "Let me help. Let me do this one good thing. Please." Maya looked at this man, this stranger who wasn't a stranger anymore, and saw the same brokenness she'd seen in the diner. Healed now, but still there. Still real. "I need to know the truth," she said finally. "All of it. Who you are, why you were in that diner, what you're really doing. No more secrets." Jean met her eyes. "Okay, but not here. Somewhere private. Somewhere safe." "The diner," Maya said. "Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. Same booth." Jean smiled, a small, genuine expression that transformed his face. "I'll be there." Maya watched the car drive away, her hands still shaking. She didn't know if she'd just made the best or worst decision of her life. She just knew she needed the truth. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected kindness and hidden power, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen next. Is Jean really trying to change? Or is Maya walking into danger? Let me know below. Jean arrived at the diner 30 minutes early. He sat in the same booth where Maya had found him, ordered coffee he didn't drink, and waited. Kong and 3 other guards were positioned around the diner, invisible but present. "Sir," Kong said through the earpiece. We've swept the location. It's clean. Good. Stay alert. At exactly 7 o'clock, Maya walked in. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked exhausted and determined and beautiful in a way that made Jin's chest tighten. She slid into the booth across from him, same as before. For a moment, they just looked at each other. So, Maya said finally, the truth. Jin took a breath. My name is Jin Tae-suk. I'm from Seoul, South Korea. I came to America 15 years ago with nothing and built an organization that handles imports, exports, and various business interests across the West Coast. Business interests. Maya's voice was flat. That's a very polite way to say something, isn't it? Yes. Are you mafia? Jin considered lying, considered softening the truth. But she'd asked for honesty and he owed her that. Yes, he said. Though we don't use that term. I run a Korean organized crime syndicate. We handle everything from legitimate import, export to less legal activities. Protection, gambling, some controlled substances. Nothing involving children or human trafficking. I have lines I don't cross. But yes, I'm a criminal. Maya's face had gone very still. And 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, my second-in-command betrayed me, tried to have me killed, turned half my organization against me. I escaped, but barely. I'd lost everything I'd built, everyone I trusted. Jin's hands tightened around the coffee cup. I went to that diner planning to disappear permanently. I had made peace with it. Disappear? Maya repeated. You mean? Yes. Silence fell between them. Maya stared at her hands, processing. And then I came along, she said quietly. And then you came along. And you spent your last $20 on a drunk stranger. And you asked for nothing in return. And you treated me like a human being when I'd forgotten I was one. Jin leaned forward. You changed my mind, Maya. You saved my life. Don't do that. Maya's voice cracked. Don't make me responsible for whether you live or die. That's not fair. I'm not. I'm just telling you the truth. You asked for truth. Maya looked up, tears shining in her eyes. So now what? You've repaid your debt. You've helped me get on my feet. We're even. You can go back to your world, and I can go back to mine. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Maya's voice turned bitter. You're a criminal. You do things I probably don't even want to know about. My daughter, I have to think about Zoe. I can't expose her to that. You're right. Jin sat back. You're absolutely right. I'm dangerous. My world is dangerous. You and your daughter should stay as far away from me as possible. But, Maya prompted. But I can't undo what I've done. I can't take back the help I've given. And I can't stop caring whether you're okay. Jin met her eyes. I've done terrible things, Maya. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to accept me. I'm just asking, let me protect you. From a distance. You'll never see me again if you don't want to. But let me know you're safe. Maya wiped her eyes roughly. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. Yes. I should walk away. I should take Zoe and move somewhere you can't find us and never look back. You could try. Jin's voice was soft. But I'd find you. Not to hurt you. Just to make sure you're okay. I can't help it anymore. Maya laughed. A broken sound. You're unbelievable. I know. She sat in silence for a long time, thinking. Jin didn't push. Didn't plead. Just waited. Finally, Maya spoke. And this is a huge if I let you stay in my life, there have to be rules. Boundaries. Things you can't cross. Hope flickered in Jin's chest. Name them. First, nothing illegal around Zoe. Nothing. I don't care what you do in your business. But my daughter doesn't see it. Doesn't hear about it. Doesn't get anywhere near it. Done. Second, you don't lie to me. Ever. I don't need to know every detail of what you do. But if I ask, you tell me the truth. Done. Third, Maya's voice shook. You don't make me choose between you and my daughter. If staying connected to you puts her at risk, I walk away. No questions, no arguments. Jin's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Done. And finally, you don't own me. Not my time, not my choices, not my life. I'm not your property or your project or your redemption. I'm a person. You treat me like one. Always, Jean said. I promise. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Then she held out her hand. Okay. Friends. That's all. Just friends. Jean took her hand. Her skin was warm against his, calloused from hard work but gentle. Friends. They shook on it, and Jean knew he was lying. He could never be just friends with the woman who'd saved his life. But he'd take whatever she was willing to give. They sat in that diner for 3 more hours talking. Maya told him about Zoe, about her dreams of becoming a nurse, about the life she wanted to build. Jean told her about growing up in Seoul, about coming to America with nothing, about the choices that had led him to his current life. He didn't tell her about Park Min-ho, didn't mention the ongoing threat, didn't want to scare her. That would prove to be a mistake. The attack came 2 days later. Maya was walking Zoe home from school when the black van pulled up. 2 men got out, both Korean, both with the kind of cold efficiency that came from training. One of them smiled at Zoe. Hello, little girl. Want some candy? Maya's blood turned to ice. She grabbed Zoe's hand, pulled her daughter behind her. Stay away from us. We're not here to hurt anyone, the man said, still smiling. We just want to talk to your mother. About a mutual friend. I'm calling the police. Maya fumbled for her phone. The second man moved impossibly fast. He was beside her before she could dial, his hand on her wrist. Not hurting but firm. No police. Just a message for Jean Tae-suk. I don't know. Don't lie. Park Min-ho knows you're important to him. He wants you to tell Jean that his protection only extends so far. That there are people who can reach anyone. The man released her wrist. Go home, Ms. Jenkins. Lock your doors. And tell Jean that his time is running out. They got back in the van and drove away, leaving Maya shaking in the middle of the sidewalk, Zoe crying against her side. Maya did 3 things. First, she got Zoe home and locked every door and window. Second, she called Mrs. Chan and asked her to watch Zoe, lying and saying it was a work emergency. Third, she called the number Jean had given her. He answered on the first ring. Maya. 2 men just threatened my daughter. Her voice was shaking with rage and fear. They mentioned Park Min-ho. They said to tell you his protection only extends so far. Silence on the other end. Then, in a voice colder than anything she'd heard from him before, Where are you? Home. Zoe's at the neighbors. Lock your doors. I'm sending someone. Don't open for anyone except a Korean woman named Yuna. She'll say the password Seoul Night. Anyone else you call the police. Understand? Jean, what's happening? Park is escalating. I thought I had more time. I was wrong. Jin's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry, Maya. I never wanted this to touch you. Well, it did. So now what? Now I end this. Tonight. The call disconnected. Maya sat in her locked apartment, every light on, a kitchen knife in her shaking hand, and waited. 20 minutes later, a knock came at the door. Ms. Jenkins. A woman's voice, accented but clear. Seoul Night. Maya opened the door. The woman standing there was petite, pretty, and carrying herself like a coiled spring. Yuna. I'm here to keep you safe, Yuna said, stepping inside. Jin's orders. No one will touch you or your daughter. Where is he? Finishing what Park started. Yuna's expression was grim. Tonight. This ends one way or another. Jean walked into the warehouse alone. He knew it was a trap. He didn't care. Park Min-ho stood in the center of the space, surrounded by a dozen armed men. He smiled when he saw Jean. Brother, I knew you'd come. You threatened a civilian, Jean said, his voice ice. You threatened a child. You broke every code we ever had. Codes? Park laughed. You're lecturing me about codes? You who've gone soft over some woman you barely know. She's made you weak, Jean. That's why you have to be removed. She's made me human. There's a difference. Not in our world. Park gestured to his men. Take him. The men moved forward. Jean didn't flinch. In one fluid motion, he drew a gun from inside his coat and shot the lights out. The warehouse plunged into darkness. Jean moved like water, using the chaos, the training he'd done for years. He didn't kill, he'd promised Maya he was trying to be better, but he incapacitated. Efficiently, brutally. When the backup lights kicked in 2 minutes later, 11 men were on the ground, unconscious or groaning in pain. Only Park remained standing, his own gun drawn. "You always were the best fighter," Park said. "I should have remembered that. You should have remembered we were brothers." Jin's gun pointed at Park's chest. "You should have remembered loyalty meant something to me. Loyalty is a fairy tale we tell ourselves to sleep at night. Power is real. Survival is real. Your woman? She's just another weakness waiting to be exploited." Jin's finger tightened on the trigger. One bullet. That's all it would take. Park would be gone. The threat would end. But Maya's voice echoed in his head. "You don't own me. I'm a person. You treat me like one." Jin lowered the gun. "I'm not killing you, Minho. But you're done. Your organization is dissolved. Your men work for me now, or they find new employment. You get to leave alive, but you never come back. You never speak my name. You never think about that woman or her daughter again." Park's face twisted. "You're letting me go? After everything? I'm choosing mercy. Something I learned from someone better than me." Jean stepped closer, his voice dropping. "But understand this, if you ever come near Maya Jenkins or her daughter again, if you so much as breathe their names, I won't hesitate next time. I'll burn everything you love to the ground and make you watch. Then I'll kill you slowly. Are we clear?" Park stared at him for a long moment. Then he dropped his gun. "You really have changed." "Yes, I have." Jean gestured to the door. "Go, while you still can." Park walked toward the exit, then paused. "She'll never accept what you are, you know? People like her, they don't understand our world. Eventually, she'll see the monster, and she'll run." "Maybe," Jean said quietly. "But that's her choice to make. Not yours. Not mine." Park left. Jean stood in the warehouse surrounded by unconscious men. His hands steady. His heart steady. Knowing he just crossed a line he could never uncross. He'd chosen humanity over power. Mercy over revenge. A future he didn't deserve over a past he couldn't escape. He pulled out his phone and called Kong. "It's done. Park is exiled. Clean this up. And make sure every man in this organization understands. Maya Jenkins and her daughter are untouchable. Spread the word through every network we have. Anyone who goes near them answers to me personally." "Yes, sir." "And the woman? Should we bring her to you?" "No. I'll go to her." When Jean arrived at Maya's apartment 3 hours later, dawn was breaking over the city. Yuna opened the door, nodded once, and stepped aside. Maya sat on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes red from crying and not sleeping. When she saw Jean, she stood up. "Is it over?" "Yes." Jean stayed by the door, giving her space. "Park is gone. The threat is neutralized. You and Zoe are safe." "What did you do?" Jean met her eyes. Truth he'd promised her. Always truth. "I fought my way through his men. Disarmed him. Had the chance to kill him. Didn't take it. Let him go with the understanding that if he ever comes near you again, I won't show mercy a second time." Maya stared at him. "You didn't kill him." "No. Because of me. Because of what you taught me." Jean took a careful step forward. "Maya, I am what I am. I hurt people tonight. Didn't kill them, but I hurt them. I'll probably hurt more people in the future. My world is violent and dark, and I can't change that completely. But I can try to be better. I can try to choose mercy when power would be easier. Because you showed me that choice exists." Maya's hands were shaking. "I need you to leave." Jean felt his heart crack. "Okay. Not forever. Just I need time. To process. To think. To figure out if I can really do this." She wiped her eyes. "You kept your promises. You protected us. You chose not to kill. That means something. But it doesn't erase what you are or what happened. I need time to decide if that's something I can live with. How much time? I don't know. Maya's voice broke. As much as I need. Jean nodded. Okay, but I'm leaving Yuna outside your building. Just as a precaution. You won't see her, but she'll be there. And if you need anything, anything at all, you call me. Day or night. Understood. Understood. Jean walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I never wanted my world to touch yours. I know, Maya whispered. That's the problem. I believe you. Jean left. In the hallway, Yuna was waiting. She needs space, Jean said. But she also needs protection. 24/7 surveillance. Full team rotation. No direct contact unless she initiates it. And you, sir? I'm going to rebuild. Properly this time. Less violence, more legitimate business. I'm going to become someone she might actually want to know. Jin's jaw set. However long it takes. For 3 weeks, Maya didn't call. She went to work. Took care of Zoe. Started nursing school with the scholarship that she now understood came from Jin's intervention. Lived her life. But she thought about him constantly. Zoe noticed. Mama, you're sad. I'm just tired, baby. Is it because of the man? Maya looked at her daughter in surprise. What man? The man in the pictures on your phone. The one you keep looking at when you think I'm not watching. Maya's face heated. She had been looking at the single photo she'd found of Jean online. A rare candid shot from some business event. Him in a suit. Looking distant and dangerous and heartbreakingly alone. It's complicated, Zoe. Is he a bad man? Maya thought about that. Really thought about it. No. He's done bad things. But he's trying to be better. That's what makes it complicated. Mrs. Chun says everyone deserves a chance to be better. Mrs. Chun is very wise. So are you giving him a chance? Maya pulled Zoe close. I don't know yet, baby. I'm scared. Of what? That I'll make the wrong choice. That I'll put us in danger. That Maya's voice caught. That I'll care too much about someone who can't change. Zoe hugged her tight. Mama, you always make the right choice. Even when it's hard. That night, after Zoe was asleep, Maya called Jean. He answered immediately, like he'd been waiting by the phone for weeks. Maybe he had been. Maya. Hi. She took a breath. Can we talk? In person. When? Tomorrow. The diner. 7 o'clock. I'll be there. Jean arrived at 6:30. Ordered coffee. Waited. Every minute felt like an hour. At 7 exactly, Maya walked in. She looked less exhausted than before. Like she'd been sleeping better. She slid into the booth across from him. So, she said, I've been thinking. And I've decided you're an idiot. Jean blinked. What? You're an idiot, Maya repeated. You think I care that you're some mafia boss? You think that's the scary part? Isn't it? No. Maya leaned forward. The scary part is that I felt safer with you protecting us than I've felt in years. The scary part is that my daughter asks about you. The scary part is that I miss you, even though I barely know you. That's terrifying. Jin's heart hammered. Maya, I'm not done. She held up a hand. I've spent my whole life protecting myself, building walls, not letting anyone in because everyone eventually leaves or lets me down. And then you show up, dangerous, complicated, completely wrong for me, and you don't leave. You don't let me down. You keep your promises even when it costs you. I'm trying. I know. That's what scares me most. Because if you're trying this hard and you're still this dangerous, what happens when you stop trying? Jean met her eyes. I won't stop. Not with you. Not ever. You can't promise that. I can. And I do. Jean reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. Maya, I've built an empire on violence and fear. I've made terrible choices and hurt people who didn't deserve it. I'm not good. I'm probably never going to be good. But I swear to you, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better. For you. For Zoe. For myself. Maya looked at his hand, hovering near hers. Then slowly, carefully, she closed the distance. Her fingers wrapped around his. Okay, she whispered. But we do this right. We go slow. We figure it out together. And the second I think Zoe is at risk, I walk away. No arguments. No arguments, Jean agreed. And you have to meet her properly. Not as some mysterious man who shows up in parking lots. As someone who might, Maya's voice shook, who might be part of our lives. I'd be honored. They sat there, hands linked across the table in the same booth where this had all begun. And for the first time in either of their lives, the future didn't look terrifying. It looked like possibility. Meeting Zoe was the most nervous Jean had been in 15 years. He'd faced down rival gangs, survived assassination attempts, built a criminal empire from nothing. None of that compared to standing outside Maya's apartment with flowers and a children's book about Korean folktales. About to meet a 7-year-old girl whose opinion mattered more than any don or boss or politician. Maya opened the door. She wore a dress. The first time he'd seen her in anything but work clothes, and she looked beautiful. "You're terrified," she said, amused. "Absolutely. Good. That means you care." She stepped aside. "Come in." Zoe sat on the couch, wearing a princess dress and regarding Jean with the serious expression of someone conducting a very important interview. "Hello," Jean said, offering the flowers to Maya and holding out the book. "Your mother told me you like stories." Zoe took the book, examined it carefully. "What's it about?" "Korean fairy tales. Tigers and rabbits and clever girls who outsmart monsters." "I like clever girls." Zoe looked up at him. "Are you the man who helps my mama?" Jean knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Yes, if your mother lets me. Mama says you do bad things sometimes." Jean blinked, looked at Maya, who shrugged. She'd clearly decided on radical honesty with her daughter. "That's true," Jean said carefully. "I've made mistakes. I'm trying to make better choices now." "Why?" "Because your mother showed me how." Jean smiled slightly. "She's the strongest, kindest person I've ever met. And you're clearly just like her." Zoe considered this. Then, "Do you like pizza?" "Yes." "Good. We're having pizza for dinner. You can stay if you want." She hopped off the couch. "But you have to read me a story from this book first. Mama's not very good at the voices." Maya made an indignant sound. "Excuse me, my voices are excellent." "Mama, you make everyone sound like they're tired." "Which they are because you're always tired." Jean laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in weeks. "I would be honored to read you a story." Dinner was chaos. Good chaos. Zoe talked nonstop about school. Her friends. A boy named Marcus who'd pulled her hair, but then apologized with a drawing. Maya tried to maintain some parental authority but kept dissolving into laughter. Jean found himself relaxing, piece by piece, the armor he always wore falling away. He realized. This is what he'd been fighting for. Not power or territory or respect. This feeling of belonging. After dinner, after stories, after Zoe finally fell asleep clutching her new book, Jean and Maya stood in the kitchen washing dishes like a normal couple doing a normal thing. "Thank you," Jean said quietly. "For what?" "For letting me in. For trusting me with her." He dried a plate carefully. "She's wonderful, Maya. You've raised an incredible human being. She likes you. That's either very good or very bad." Maya bumped his shoulder. "I haven't decided which yet. Can I take you both to dinner next week? Somewhere nice. Let me do this properly." Maya smiled. "Properly? I want to court you, Maya Jenkins. Old-fashioned, respectful, the way someone like you deserves to be courted. Flowers and dates and conversations and slow dancing and everything I've never done in my life because I've never wanted anything the way I want you." Maya set down the dish she was holding, turned to face him fully. "Jean Tae-suk, are you asking me to be your girlfriend? Eventually, if you'll have me. I'm asking if I can try to earn that privilege." Maya looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped forward and kissed him. Soft, careful, full of promise and fear and hope all tangled together. When she pulled back, Jin's heart was hammering. "Yes," Maya whispered. "You can try." The next 3 months were the happiest of Jin's life. He restructured his entire organization, pushing toward legitimate businesses and cutting ties with the most violent operations. It wasn't perfect, he was still who he was, but it was progress. More importantly, he kept every promise he made to Maya. He took her to dinner every Friday, fancy restaurants where she dressed up, and he memorized the way she laughed. He took Zoe to the aquarium, the science museum, the park, learning how to be around a child without his usual armor of distance and control. He met Maya at her nursing classes with coffee and encouragement. He called when he said he would, showed up when he promised, never lied about his business, even when the truth was uncomfortable. And slowly, carefully, Maya let him further into her life. They fell into a rhythm. Jean would come over for dinner twice a week. He'd read to Zoe while Maya studied. They'd talk after Zoe went to bed, about everything and nothing, about their pasts and their fears and their hopes for the future. For months Maya told him she loved him. They were in her apartment, late at night, Zoe long asleep. Some old movie playing on TV that neither was watching. Maya was curled against his side, his arm around her shoulders, and she just said it quietly into the darkness. "I love you." Jean froze. "Maya, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." She tilted her head to look at him. "I fought it. I tried not to. I told myself 1,000 reasons why this was a bad idea. But I love you anyway. You complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man." Jean pulled her closer. "I've never said those words to anyone. Not my parents. Not my friends. Never. I know. But I feel them." His voice was rough. "Every time I see you. Every time you smile. Every time Zoe calls me Mr. Jean, like I'm someone trustworthy. I feel something I don't have words for in English or Korean. Something that terrifies me." "That's okay." Maya kissed his jaw. "We can figure out the words later." "I would die for you," Jean said. "Both of you. That's the closest I can come to explaining it. I don't want you to die for us. I want you to live for us. Big difference." Jean laughed, the sound surprised out of him. "You're right. I want to live for you. That's even more terrifying." "Good." Maya snuggled closer. "Now shut up and watch the movie." Jean shut up and watched the movie, his heart so full it ached. The proposal came 6 months later. Jean didn't do it the traditional way, diamond ring, bent knee, public declaration. Instead, he did it on a rainy Thursday night in the same diner where they'd met, in the same booth where everything had started. Maya was drinking coffee after a long shift. Jean slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside were 3 papers. The first was a deed to a house. 3 bedrooms, big backyard, good school district. Paid in full. "Jean, keep going." The second paper was a trust fund for Zoe's education. Full ride to any university she chose, plus graduate school. "Jean, this is too much." Last one. The third paper was different. A contract, written in both English and Korean, laying out terms and conditions. Maya read it slowly, her eyes widening. It wasn't a prenup. It was a promise. A promise that Jean would continue therapy. He'd started 2 months ago at Maya's gentle insistence. A promise that he would transition his business to legitimate operations within 5 years. A promise that their home would be violence-free. A promise that Zoe's safety would always come first. A promise that if Maya ever wanted out, she could leave with no consequences, keeping the house and trust fund regardless. At the bottom, space for 2 signatures. And a single line. "Will you build a life with me?" Maya looked up, tears streaming down her face. "This is the weirdest proposal I've ever heard of. Is that a yes?" "Yes." She laughed through her tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Jean slipped the ring on her finger, and they kissed across the table where a broken man had once found salvation in a stranger's kindness. The night manager, the same one from a year ago, walked by and paused. "Ha, you clean up nice." Jean looked at him. "You remember me?" "Hard to forget. You were pretty gone that night." The manager looked at Maya. "You're the lady who bought him food." "I am. Worked out pretty well, I guess." The manager grinned. "Congrats. Coffee's on the house." After he left, Maya and Jean sat there, Hands linked, rings touching, planning a future neither had believed possible. When do we tell Zoe? Maya asked. Together. Tomorrow. If you want. She's going to lose her mind with excitement. Good excited or bad excited? Good. She's been asking when you're going to officially be her family. Maya smiled. She's been ready for months. I was the one taking forever to catch up. You were being careful. Protecting her. That's what good mothers do. And good fathers. Maya squeezed his hand. Because that's what you're going to be. You know that, right? Jin's throat tightened. I don't know how to be a father. Neither did you know how to be a boyfriend, a partner, or a decent human being a year ago. You figured it out. Maya's smile was soft. You'll figure this out too. We'll figure it out together. They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony. Zoe was the flower girl and took the responsibility with deadly seriousness. Kong was Jin's best man and cried through the entire ceremony. Mrs. Chun officiated. Turned out she was an ordained minister, and gave a sermon about second chances that had everyone in tears. Jin's organization, the parts that remained, the parts he'd legitimized, sent flowers and gifts and respectful distance. They understood that this part of their boss's life was separate, sacred, not to be touched. Park Min-ho, true to the exile, stayed gone. Word through the network said he'd gone back to Korea, started over, lived quietly. Jin didn't know if that was true, didn't care. That part of his life was over. The honeymoon was a week at a beach resort. Jin's first vacation in 15 years. Maya wore sundresses and laughed at his inability to relax. Zoe built sandcastles and made Jin help, bossing him around like a tiny general. It was perfect. When they came home to their new house, the one Jin had bought, the one with the big backyard and good schools, Zoe ran through every room claiming her territory. Maya stood in the kitchen, arms around Jin's waist, head against his chest. Happy? Jin asked. Terrified, Maya admitted. But yes, incredibly happy. Me too. Who would have thought? Single mom and mafia boss. Not exactly a fairy tale. Better than a fairy tale. Jin kissed the top of her head. Those aren't real. This is. If you've made it this far in the story, thank you for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this journey from a $20 act of kindness to a whole new life. And drop a comment. I want to know what moment got you the most emotional. Was it the diner scene? The proposal? Let me know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now for more stories about unexpected love, redemption, and the power of choosing kindness even when the world gives you every reason not to. 5 years later, Jin stood in the backyard watching Zoe. 12 now, brilliant and fierce, practicing taekwondo forms on the grass. She'd been taking classes for 2 years, was a red belt already, and Jin was simultaneously proud and terrified of how good she was getting. She's going to be better than you soon, Maya said, coming up beside him with 2 glasses of lemonade. She's already better than me. More disciplined. Jin accepted the lemonade. She told me yesterday she wants to be a lawyer. Specifically, a prosecutor. Maya laughed. Oh, the irony. I encouraged it. Told her the world needs people who fight for justice. Look at you. Former crime boss encouraging his daughter to put people like him in jail. Former crime boss who's been completely legitimate for 3 years. Jin corrected. The import-export business is thriving. Everything above board. Boring even. You love boring. I love this. Jin gestured to the yard, the house, the family. Boring is paradise. Maya leaned against him, and they watched Zoe practice in comfortable silence. These moments, quiet, ordinary, peaceful, were the ones Jin treasured most. His phone buzzed. A message from Kong. Business deal cleared. Everything legitimate. You were right. Legal pays better long-term. Jin smiled and put the phone away. Good news? Maya asked. The best kind. The boring kind. That night, after Zoe was asleep, after Jin and Maya had gone through the routine of checking homework and packing lunches and being parents, they lay in bed together. Do you ever miss it? Maya asked quietly. The power, the respect, the fear. Jean considered the question honestly. Sometimes. For about 10 seconds. Then Zoe asks me to help with her math homework, or you smile at me over coffee, or I wake up without constantly checking for threats. And I remember that this, he pulled her closer. This is real power. This is what's worth protecting. Sap. Your sap. Maya laughed and kissed him. Yes, my sap. Forever. Forever, Jean agreed. On the 7th anniversary of the night Maya spent her last $20 on a stranger. Jean took her back to the diner. Same booth. Same time. But different people now, healed, whole, together. I've been thinking, Jean said, stirring his coffee. Dangerous. I want to start a foundation. For single parents struggling to make ends meet. Scholarships, housing assistance, childcare support. Everything you needed and couldn't find. Maya's eyes widened. Jean, that's incredible. I want to name it after you. The Maya Jenkins Foundation for Second Chances. Absolutely not. If we're doing this, it's the Second Chances Foundation. No names. Maya reached across the table and took his hands. But I love the idea. I love that you want to help people the way you wish someone had helped you. The way you helped me. I bought you a burger. You saved my life. Jean squeezed her hands. You taught me that even people who've done terrible things can choose to be better. That it's never too late for second chances. I want to give other people that same opportunity. Maya was crying now, happy tears that she didn't bother wiping away. When did you become so perfect? I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to be worthy of the woman who saw worth in me when I couldn't see it myself. They sat in that booth for hours, planning the foundation, dreaming about the people they could help, imagining a future where Maya's small act of kindness rippled outward into something bigger than either of them. When they finally left, Jean paused outside the diner and looked back. What? Maya asked. Just remembering. That night, I was so certain my life was over, that I had nothing left, that there was no point in continuing. Jean turned to her, his eyes bright. I was sitting in that booth planning to disappear forever. And then you appeared instead. Best $20 I ever spent. Best $20 anyone ever spent. Jean pulled her close, kissed her forehead. Thank you for seeing me, for saving me, for building this life with me. Thank you for letting me. Maya smiled up at him. For being brave enough to change. For choosing love over power. For becoming the man I always knew you could be. They walked to their car hand in hand. 7 years removed from that rainy night, but forever connected to it. Because sometimes salvation comes in the smallest moments. A shared meal, a kind word, a choice to help when the world says to look away. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is believe that people can change. That second chances matter. That $20 and a desperate act of kindness can transform 2 lives and create ripples that spread further than you can imagine. Maya had spent her last $20 on a stranger, not knowing he was one of the most feared men in the Korean underworld. She'd only known he was human, hurting, and needed help. She'd been right, and that had made all the difference. Thank you so much for sticking with this story all the way to the end. If this touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and the power of kindness, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and tell me in the comments what part of Jean and Maya's journey resonated with you the most. Should I make more stories like this? What would you like to see next? Your support means everything, and I can't wait to bring you more stories that remind us all that it's never too late to choose love, redemption, and becoming the person we're meant to be. See you in the next one.